Don't tell everyone your story. Let me tell y'all something real quick. Everybody who smiles at you ain't your friend. And everybody who listens to your story ain't listening to help you win. See, we live in a time where people confuse attention with support. But if you out here telling everybody your dreams, your pain, your process, you're just giving folks ammo to shoot down your destiny. Let me break it down for you. Your story is sacred. The trials you've been through, the storms you've survived, the nights you cried when nobody saw all that is part of your divine design. But not everybody deserves to hear how you got those scars, 'cause not everybody can handle the weight of what God is doing in your life. Stop trying to get validation from people who wouldn't walk a mile in your shoes. See, when I was coming up, I used to think sharing my pain would bring me healing, and yes, healing is real. But it don't come from putting your soul on display for the world. It comes from quiet strength, from private growth, from those moments where you sit alone with God and let Him do surgery on your spirit. Now, some folks will say, but I just want people to understand me. Listen here, if they ain't assigned to your destiny, they ain't required to understand your journey. That ain't their business. Stop leaking your greatness into places that only know how to drain you. Your story ain't gossip. It's not clickbait. It's purpose, wrapped in pain, laced with power. And don't get me wrong, testimony is powerful, but there's a difference between a testimony and a trauma dump. You can't expect your story to grow fruit if you keep planting it in poisoned soil. Some folks just want to know your wounds so they can use it against you later. Protect your peace. Guard your purpose. Your story has timing. It's not for everybody, and it's not for right now. There's a season where God will call you to speak, but there's also a season where He'll call you to be still and heal. Don't miss that season by running your mouth too soon. You don't owe the world your diary. What you owe the world is your discipline. Let them see the results, not the recipe. Show them the harvest, not every tear that watered the ground. Your silence can be louder than your story. So remember this, you ain't hiding your story. You're honoring it. There will be a time to speak, but until then, let your work do the talking. Let your success scream what your lips don't need to say. That's how legends are made. Your story is sacred, not for public consumption. Protect it. You ever notice how people these days wanna tell everything? They get a small win or a big scar, and the first thing they do is go live or post it online. Now, don't get me wrong. I ain't against sharing your journey, but you gotta understand something powerful. Your story is sacred. It's not for the crowd, it's for your calling. And if you keep giving it to folks who ain't earned the right to hear it, you cheapen its value. See, when you've been through the fire, I'm talking real fire, the kind that burns through your pride and leaves you with nothing but prayer, you start to learn that some moments are between you and God. Ain't no likes on that kind of pain. Ain't no filter strong enough to clean up what you survived. That's holy ground. That's personal. That's your power. You don't lay that out for everybody to pick apart. The problem is, we confuse transparency with trust. Just because you can share doesn't mean you should. And just because somebody's listening don't mean they're worthy. Some folks sit close to you not to support you, but to study you, to collect your story like ammunition, just waiting for a weak moment to throw it back in your face. And listen, when you share your story too soon, you give people access to a process they can't understand. They'll criticize your struggle without knowing the context. They'll laugh at your faith 'cause they don't see what God whispered to you in the dark. They'll tell you to quit 'cause they never had to fight like you do. Why would you trust strangers with something God gave you in private? Think about this when a sculptor's working on a masterpiece. They don't invite the whole town to come watch every stroke of the chisel. No, they work in silence, in solitude. They keep it under wraps until it's finished. That's how you treat your story. Let God shape you. Let time mature you. Let the process do what it's supposed to do behind the curtain. Your story is not entertainment. It's not clickbait. It's the blueprint of your strength. And when you start spilling it to people who ain't qualified to carry it, you invite confusion into what should be clarity. You open doors to critics when you should be focused on construction. Protect it, nurture it, treat it like the treasure it is. Some of y'all think being loud about your journey will make folks respect you more. Nah, respect doesn't come from how loud you talk. It comes from how real your results are. You ever notice the most powerful people are often the quietest? That's because they know when to speak and when to move in silence. There's a difference between isolation and insulation. Sometimes God ain't hiding you cause you're being punished. He's insulating you cause you're being prepared. He's building something in you that's too valuable to be exposed too early. But when you break that insulation by oversharing, you expose your progress to poison. Let me tell you something. When I was climbing, I learned real fast that everybody who asks how you're doing don't care. Some just want updates for gossip. They don't want to see you healed, they want to see you hurt. They're not clapping because you made it. They're clapping because you fell. That's why you got to discern between curiosity and care. Your silence has strength. Your quiet seasons are holy. You don't owe the world your details. You owe yourself your dignity. You don't have to announce every move. Just make the move and let the results speak. Keep your spirit focused. Keep your head down. Let the fruit of your work do the talking. Because when it's time for your story to be told, it won't need an introduction. People will feel the power in your presence. They'll sense the depth in your eyes. They'll know without you saying a word that you've been through something mighty and came out stronger. That's testimony. That's power. That's legacy. But if you hand out your story to everyone like free samples, you miss that moment. You dilute your testimony. You rob it of the weight it's supposed to carry. Stop trying to prove something to people who aren't even listening with love. You're not for everybody, and your story isn't either. See, when you protect your story, you honor what made you. You honor every tear, every sleepless night, every setback that almost broke you but didn't. You give it value by being selective with it. Not everybody gets to see the blueprint. Not everybody deserves the behind-the-scenes footage. Some folks just need to see the finished product. That's how kings and queens move. They don't broadcast their pain, they embody their purpose. You ever seen royalty crying out their business in the streets? No, they walk with power, they speak with intention, and they only reveal what matters when it matters. That's how you protect the sacred. So as you keep climbing, just remember, your story ain't up for grabs. It's not a trending topic. It's the evidence of your survival. And survival like yours deserves respect, not exposure. Validation is not necessary for elevation. Focus on growth. Let's get this straight right now. You don't need a round of applause to take the next step in your life. You don't need people to cheer for your dreams before you start working on them. Validation feels good, but it ain't fuel. You don't climb because people believe in you. You climb because you refuse to stay where you are. A lot of people miss their elevation because they sit around waiting for confirmation, waiting for mama to say it's okay, waiting for friends to say go for it, waiting for likes, shares, and approval. But what if they never give it to you? What if nobody ever sees the vision you see? Do you stop climbing? Do you give up on your future just cause somebody else can't see it? Some of y'all are carrying dreams that were never meant to be understood by the people around you. And that's okay. Your elevation is personal. It's between you and the Creator. You weren't born to be validated. You were born to walk in purpose. And sometimes purpose will put you on a road where nobody claps, nobody helps, and nobody sees. That's still your road. See, growth happens in silence. You don't see the roots working, but they're working. The seed don't scream while it's sprouting. It just pushes through dirt, fights through darkness, and keeps on rising. That's how you gotta be. Rise without noise, push without permission, elevate without applause. Now let me ask you something. What if all the people you were trying to impress fell silent? What if nobody told you good job? Would you still believe in what you're doing? Would you still show up early, stay late, and hustle hard? 'Cause if the answer is no, then you're chasing attention, not purpose. Real elevation don't come with fireworks. It comes with fatigue, failure, and faith. It comes with being tired but showing up anyway. It comes with being doubted and moving forward regardless. The higher you go, the fewer folks understand the view. And that's because not everybody is meant to go with you. You can't carry people's opinions and your calling at the same time. One's gonna get dropped, and it better not be your calling. Some folks will never believe in you till you make it. That's not your burden to carry. Your job is not to convince them, your job is to become it. Stop pausing your grind just because somebody don't approve. Some folks don't even believe in themselves. How they gonna believe in you? You let their disbelief block your breakthrough. Come on now. You weren't created for their comfort. You were created for transformation. Validation can be a trap. It feels like love, but sometimes it's just control dressed up in compliments. I'll support you if you do it this way. I'm proud of you, but you should have done it differently. Nah, that ain't support, that's manipulation. Let your yes come from within. Let your passion be the power, not people. When you know who you are and what you're called to do, validation becomes extra. Nice to have, but not needed. It becomes a bonus, not the baseline. You can clap for me or not, I'm still showing up. You can doubt me or not, I'm still grinding. That's the mindset that separates the successful from the stagnant. The truth is, some people won't validate you because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your ambition makes their excuses uncomfortable. Your elevation shakes up their comfort zone. That's not your fault. Don't shrink to make them comfortable. Don't quiet your greatness to avoid their insecurities. You got a focus on growth like your life depends on it, because it does. Every moment you delay progress waiting on praise is a moment wasted. Life don't wait for applause. It moves on. And if you sit still waiting for cheers, you'll miss your season. You'll miss your door. You weren't built to be popular, you were built to be powerful. And sometimes power is lonely. Sometimes growth is quiet, but it's still growth. Your job is to keep climbing. Keep becoming. Keep moving. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them sleep. While they rest, you rise. And when the dust settles, when the results are in, when the fruit starts falling off the tree of your hustle, the same folks who didn't clap will try to sit at your table. And you'll smile, not out of pride, but out of peace, because you'll know you elevated without needing to be validated. Testimonies should empower, not expose you to spiritual harm. A testimony is supposed to lift, not leak. When you share what you've been through, it's meant to shine a light on how you made it, not give people permission to drag you back into the darkness. But too many folks out here are sharing their stories in rooms that don't deserve it, and then wonder why they feel drained afterward. Because a real testimony ain't just about telling your truth. It's about protecting your spirit while you do it. Not everybody is ready for the weight your story carries. Some people don't hear testimony, they hear vulnerability, and they use it against you. They don't see the victory, they just want to poke at the pain. And when you start sharing sacred things in unsafe places, you invite spiritual harm that can set you back emotionally, mentally, even physically. You've got to be careful with your truth. There's a time and place for every testimony. It's not for entertainment. It's not for likes. It's for healing. It's for transformation. It's for the right audience in the right moment under the right covering. You can't go around handing out your heart to people who don't even handle their own. They'll mishandle you and then call it honesty. That ain't honesty, that's recklessness. You ever been open with somebody and walked away feeling worse instead of better? That's a sign. That's your spirit saying, that wasn't the right space. You've got to learn to protect your soul from environments that can't hold you. Because a testimony ain't just words, it's your journey. And your journey deserves reverence, not reactions. See, the purpose of a testimony is to show that pain didn't win, that the mountain didn't break you, that the valley didn't destroy you. It's to show someone else that if you came through it, they can too. But if you share it prematurely or with the wrong folks, all they see is the storm, not the survival. And instead of being empowered, they judge, or worse, they mock. And now your healing moment turns into a source of hurt. This is why you've got to grow strong in silence before you speak in public. Let the wound turn into a scar before you display it. A wound is still bleeding. A wound is still sensitive. A scar says, I've healed. A scar says, I've been through it and I made it. That's when your testimony can carry power instead of pain. Now, there will be a time to speak. There will be a platform. There will be a person who needs your story like air, but that person will honor it. They won't use it as gossip. They won't throw it back in your face when things get rough. They'll listen because they're hungry for hope, not drama. That's when you speak. You have to use wisdom with your story. Stop sharing deep things with shallow people. Stop hoping your truth will change someone who ain't even changed themselves. That's not testimony, that's trauma dressed up in public. And you were never meant to carry trauma on stage. You were meant to walk with power. Testimonies come with responsibility. What you've been through has value. But just like you wouldn't take diamonds and throw them into the street, you don't throw your survival into the hands of people who don't know how to handle treasure. Your journey is a diamond. Treat it as such. Some of y'all are bleeding in front of wolves and calling it ministry. But wolves don't heal, they hunt. You need to stop looking for comfort in chaos. You need to realize that just because someone smiles don't mean they care. There's a difference between a safe space and a slick setup. Learn the difference. Now don't let this make you bitter, let it make you wise. You can still be open. You can still be vulnerable, but you need discernment. You need maturity. You need to know when your story is ready and when you're sharing from scars instead of wounds. Because when you speak from healing, people hear hope. But when you speak from hurt, people get confusion. And let me tell you something else, you don't owe everybody access to your healing. Some things are between you and God. Some things stay in the journal. Some things stay in prayer. Some things become the oil you carry, not the tale you tell. That's still testimony. That's still power. Just quiet power. You were not meant to be broken in front of everybody. You were meant to be rebuilt in private. So when you walk into the room, people feel something different on you. They feel peace. They feel strength. And maybe, just maybe, when the moment is right, you'll open your mouth and say, let me tell you what I've been through. And that moment will change lives. But until then, guard your healing. Protect your spirit. Don't let your testimony turn into a trigger. Use your story the way a sword is used with skill, timing, and purpose. Because when wielded right, it can cut through the lies, inspire the broken, and shift the atmosphere. But when thrown recklessly, it just causes pain. People love the lesson, but rarely honor the process. Ain't it funny how everybody loves a success story once it's polished and wrapped up with a bow? They love the before and after picture. They cheer when they see the diploma, the business, the house, the smile. But when you were in the middle of the struggle, when you were crying behind closed doors, losing sleep, trying to figure out how to keep going, where were they then? Nowhere, because most folks love the lesson, but they rarely honor the process. The process is messy. The process is lonely. The process is confusing. It don't come with a manual or a fan club. And if you're not careful, you'll start resenting the journey just 'cause you're walking it alone. But don't that walk, that pressure, that pruning, it's necessary, because without the process, there is no power. Without the grind, there is no glory. See, Folks will quote your comeback like it's a fairy tale. Wow, look at how far they've come. But what they skip over is the night you almost quit. The day you had $5 to your name. The season where every prayer felt like it bounced off the ceiling. They love the lesson, but they don't want to hear about the tears. But you gotta go through the process to get the promise. That's just the truth, and you can't fake it. You can't skip steps. Growth don't come from comfort. It comes from pressing through pain with purpose. It comes from saying, I don't see the way, but I believe there is one. And walking anyway. Some folks around you right now might be saying, you doing too much. Or why you working so hard? That's because they don't see the vision. They don't know the promise that was whispered in your spirit, and they wouldn't understand it even if you explained it, because the process is custom, built, it's tailored to you. So stop trying to get folks to validate what they weren't called to walk. And when you finally reach that breakthrough moment when the doors open, when the harvest shows up, oh, they'll show up too, clapping, smiling, calling you inspirational. But they didn't see the process. They didn't respect it. They didn't carry you through it, and that's fine. You don't need applause from people who didn't bleed with you. Don't be bitter, though. Be better. Let the silence of your struggle teach you who's real. Let it reveal who's seasonal and who's permanent. Because the process filters. It separates those who cheer for your outcome from those who supported your journey. And those people, the ones who stood by you when you had nothing to offer but a dream. Honor them, keep them close. Now listen, even you might struggle to honor your own process sometimes. You'll get tired. You'll get impatient. You'll want to skip to the lesson part, where everything makes sense. But the truth is, clarity comes in motion. You learn by doing. You grow by going. So keep going. And while you're walking through it, stop comparing your process to someone else's product. You don't know what they had to go through. And they don't know what you're fighting through now. So don't envy their shine. Focus on your grind. The spotlight don't mean much if you haven't been strengthened in the shadows. The process humbles you. It strips away pride. It reveals flaws and builds faith. It teaches you how to stand, how to pray, how to endure. It teaches you patience, resilience, and trust. It molds your character so when you finally reach that next level, you won't break under the weight of the blessing. And I know it don't feel good. You're wondering why me. You're asking when is it my turn. Let me tell you, if you're in the fire, it means you're being forged. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. You're not being delayed, you're being developed. Keep your eyes on the outcome, but learn to respect the process, because one day, the very thing you're struggling through will become your platform. The tears you cried will become someone else's survival guide. The pit you clawed your way out of will be proof that God still moves. But you've got to make it through the middle first. So while folks around you are clapping for the finish line, understand this. The finish line is only beautiful because of the miles you ran. Every blister, every setback, every lonely mile, that's what gives your victory its value. Without the sweat, the crown means nothing. And when they finally hear your story, they'll say, wow, I never knew you went through all that. That's when you'll smile, not out of pride, but out of peace. Because you'll know. You honored the process, you didn't rush it, you didn't fake it, you didn't beg for the shortcut, you walked it, and that's why the lesson has power. Everyone clapping isn't celebrating learn to discern energy. One of the biggest mistakes you can make on your journey is thinking that every clap, every smile in the room is a sign of support. It's not. Just because they in the crowd don't mean they on your team. Some people clap not because they love you, but because they want to get close enough to count your steps and sabotage your climb. Everybody clapping ain't celebrating. See, energy don't lie. People can fake words. They can fake smiles. They can even fake support for a while. But eventually, their energy tells on them. That tension in the room when you win. That silence when you speak about your goals. That shift in conversation when you walk in, that ain't just coincidence. That's energy speaking louder than applause. Some people only clap because they're trying to stay close. Not to lift you, but to learn your weaknesses. So when the lights dim, they can start whispering. They ain't cheering, they're calculating. Watching every move you make, waiting for the slip, hoping for the fall. Not everyone is against you, but trust and believe not everyone is for you either. You need discernment more than you need approval. Discernment will save you from attaching to leeches. It'll keep you from mistaking shade for shelter. It'll help you recognize who's clapping with clean hands and who's smiling with a snake in their pocket. Because spiritual warfare ain't always loud, sometimes it shows up dressed like friendship. It's easy to spot enemies who throw stones. What's hard is seeing the ones who hand you bricks just heavy enough to break your focus. The ones who say, "I'm proud of you," but never show up. The ones who say, "I got your back," but disappear when you need backup. That's why you have to look beyond the noise. Watch the patterns. Energy don't lie. You've got to get wise. Stop giving VIP access to people who belong in the back row. Stop confusing chemistry with loyalty. Some folks are around because it's convenient, not because they're committed. And the second your season shifts, their energy changes. Suddenly, the claps get softer. The support gets distant. That's your cue. Believe it the first time. Don't take it personal, though. Let it refine you, not define you. Because the goal isn't to be loved by everybody, it's to be aligned with the right ones. Real ones don't need attention to be supportive. They show up when nobody's watching. They pray for you without needing to be thanked. They clap even when you're doing better than them. And when you've got the right circle, the energy feels different. It feels safe. It feels real. You can speak vision without fear. You can be vulnerable without regret. That's the kind of energy you protect at all costs, because in a world full of noise, peace is the most valuable applause. Discernment also means learning to celebrate yourself when the claps get quiet, because sometimes heaven is the only one cheering for you. Sometimes it's just you, your grind, and your God, and that's enough. That's more than enough. If you're waiting on external claps to validate internal progress, you're gonna stay stuck. So train your spirit. Get in tune with what doesn't feel right. Trust that tug. If something feels off, it probably is. And don't feel guilty for pulling back. Everybody can't go where you're going. Some people can't handle the weight of your destiny, and some are just trying to ride the elevator without earning the climb. Let folks reveal themselves. You don't have to expose them, life will. Just keep showing up. Keep grinding, keep growing, and the ones who are meant to be with you will rise to the occasion, the rest. They'll remove themselves when the blessings start falling, because some people can't stand to see you shine when it ain't their turn. And when you finally do win, really win, take a moment to feel the energy in the room. Who's genuinely happy, who's clapping with their heart, not just their hands, that moment will tell you everything. Keep those people close. They're rare, and they're priceless. Everybody loves a rising star, but not everyone wants to see it shine brighter than their own. That's why discernment is protection. It guards your spirit. It saves your time. It prevents you from feeding people who only show up to eat, never to serve. You've got to be wise. You've got to be spiritually alert. So the next time the applause gets loud, ask yourself what's behind it. Love or leverage, celebration or strategy, loyalty or leeching. Your destiny is too important to get caught up in surface level support. Look deeper. Listen to the silence between the claps. That's where the truth lies. Even healed people don't tell everything. Wisdom keeps some scars sacred. You ever notice how the strongest folks, the ones who have been through the most, often say the least? That's not by accident, that's wisdom. See, real healing don't need a microphone. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't tell every detail of the story. Because when you've really healed, you don't need to bleed in public anymore. Some scars are sacred. Some pain is personal. and that's okay. There's a difference between being free and being loud. You don't have to unpack your whole past just to prove you've overcome it. The healed version of you has nothing to prove because the evidence is in your peace, your progress, your poise, that quiet strength, that calm confidence. That's what real growth looks like. People who are still wounded often overshare. They spill everything because the pain is still fresh. They're still trying to make sense of it. But healed people don't owe the world an explanation. They protect their story because they know what it cost. They've cried the tears, wrestled with the questions, faced the storm, and came out whole. Now they move with wisdom. Everybody don't deserve your behind the scenes footage. You might be the highlight reel to them, but they don't understand what went on when the cameras were off. And they don't need to. Not every lesson needs to be posted. Not every breakthrough needs to be broadcasted. Some victories are too holy to hand out for public consumption. Because when you share something sacred in the wrong space, it loses its weight. Folks start dissecting what they don't understand. They ask questions that aren't theirs to ask. They twist details, they gossip, and suddenly what was once a moment of healing becomes a source of stress. That's why discretion is protection. Even in the Bible, Jesus didn't explain everything. He didn't justify every move. He didn't correct every critic. Sometimes he stayed silent. That wasn't weakness, that was wisdom. Because when you're walking in purpose, you don't owe explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. You protect your oil. You preserve your anointing. Some of your scars were meant to be shown only in testimony, not in conversation. There's a difference. Testimony has a purpose. It's seasoned, it's timed, it's spirit-led. It's delivered when someone else needs the breakthrough, not when your ego needs release. That's the level healed people operate on. And that takes maturity, that takes time, that takes sitting with your own story and saying, this part is just for me. This was between me and God. This was where I broke and where I rebuilt, and nobody else needs to pick through it. That kind of self-trust. That's power, that's freedom. Now don't get it twisted. Healing doesn't mean you forget. It means you remember without bitterness. It means you carry the lessons, not the weight. But you don't throw the lessons on the table for everyone to inspect. Because this generation glorifies vulnerability without understanding stewardship. Just because you're open doesn't mean you're wise. Protect your sacred spaces. Honor the places where you healed. Don't let folks trample on the soil where you learned how to stand again. Some places are altars now. You met God there. You found strength there. You discovered your calling there. Keep those places holy. You don't owe everyone a tour of your private sanctuaries. And when people ask, what did you go through? You don't have to go into detail. You can just say, I survived, I grew, I learned, and I'm here. That's enough. Let them see the light in you without needing to know the fire you walked through to get it. That light is proof of the process. Even healed people still remember the pain, but they don't live in it. They don't stay in it. They use it wisely. They let it build them, not define them. They turn the pain into fuel, not content. They know the value of silence. They know the beauty of boundaries, and they speak only when it serves the greater purpose. Let your life speak louder than your lips. Let your character scream louder than your captions. Let your growth be the proof, not your oversharing, because when people look at you and say, I don't know what you've been through, but I can tell you came out strong, that's the highest compliment healing can ever receive. You've earned your scars, you've earned your wisdom, but you don't owe the world access to all of it. Keep some of it sacred. Keep some of it between you and the one who brought you through. That's not secrecy, that's spiritual maturity. That's discernment, that's protection, and that's how healed people walk. God will give you peace to outgrow what used to break you. There's a moment in life where you look back and say, wow, I'm not who I used to be. That moment don't come from money. It don't come from applause. It don't come from the validation of people. It comes from peace, not the kind the world gives, but the kind only God can deposit deep in your spirit. That kind of peace. It's the proof you've outgrown the storm that once had you crying on your knees. See, there was a time when that betrayal would have broken you, when that rejection would have left you in pieces, when that delay would have made you question everything. But now it doesn't shake you the same. Now you see things different. Now you respond different. That's what growth looks like: quiet, internal transformation. Not loud, not flashy, but real. Peace is power. It don't mean the storm disappeared. It means you learned how to stand still in it. It means your foundation changed. You ain't shaken by whispers anymore. You're not triggered by closed doors. You're not derailed by silence. Why? Because God gave you something greater than revenge, greater than answers, greater than applause. He gave you peace. That peace didn't come overnight. You had to fight for it. You had to cry for it. You had to walk away from some people to protect it. You had to sit in uncomfortable silence just to hold on to it, and that's why it means so much now, because it cost you, but it was worth it. Every tear was worth it. People won't understand it. They'll say, you changed. Yes, and thank God you did. You had to. You outgrew that toxic cycle. You outgrew that desperate need to explain yourself. You outgrew begging people to see your heart. That's what peace does. It matures you. It teaches you how to let go without needing closure. God will let you walk through fire just to prove that it can't consume you. And when you come out on the other side, you don't even smell like smoke. That's peace. That's evidence. That's grace. You're no longer reacting from pain. You're responding from purpose. You're no longer chasing validation. You're resting in identity. That old version of you. The one who clapped back at everything. The one who broke down over every loss. The one who couldn't sleep because of opinions. That person is gone. And you ought to thank God for that. Because it means you didn't just survive, you grew. Now you operate from a higher level. You don't force conversations. You don't chase after folks who left. You don't explain growth to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. You walk light, you walk wise, and most importantly, you walk free. That's not pride, that's peace. Peace also means you stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. You stop answering questions that weren't asked in love. You stop giving energy to things that don't serve your assignment. You start choosing you not out of selfishness, but out of stewardship. Because when you've been through hell, you learn to protect your heaven, and the peace God gives, it makes you okay with not knowing, okay with unanswered prayers, okay with slow seasons, okay with walking alone for a while, because you trust the hand that's leading you. You know who's guiding the ship. You're no longer controlled by circumstances. You're anchored in purpose. Some people will try to drag you back into the drama you outgrew. They'll poke, they'll test, they'll try to get a reaction, but don't fall for it. That's the old test, and you're on a new level. Let them wonder why you don't respond like you used to. Let your silence preach. Let your peace testify. You ain't got time to explain your evolution to folks still living in your history. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them sit in rooms you've outgrown. You've got bigger things to do. You've got peace to protect. You've got purpose to fulfill. That's your focus now. And listen, peace isn't passive. It's intentional. You choose it every day. You guard it like treasure. You surround yourself with people who feed it, not drain it. You build boundaries to protect it. Because once you've tasted real peace, you'll never settle for chaos disguised as companionship again. That's the beauty of it. God will elevate your heart before He elevates your life. He'll give you peace before He gives you platform. He'll mature your soul before He multiplies your blessings. Because He knows when the spotlight comes, you'll need that inner stillness to keep from being consumed by noise. So today, if you're feeling the shift, honor it. If your reactions have changed, celebrate it. If your circle got smaller, trust it. That means you're growing. That means you're healing. That means you've finally discovered what can't be faked, can't be forced, and can't be taken. Peace that passes all understanding. Now listen, I didn't come here today just to motivate you. I came to awaken something in you, something strong, something wise, something strategic, because life is too short to be spilling your pearls in places that ain't sacred. Too short to be explaining your scars to folks who didn't even stick around to see you bleed. Everybody ain't supposed to know your story. Some folks were just passing through, and God intended it that way. They weren't meant to stay long enough to hear the whole testimony. They were just there to push you toward your purpose, and that's all right. That's divine strategy. See, when you tell everybody your story, you give people power they didn't earn. You open up places in your heart that were only meant for healing, not inspection. You were never meant to be an open book to people who only came to underline your mistakes and skip your victories. But when you get still, when you get wise, when you start listening to that quiet voice inside, that's when everything shifts. That's when you realize that silence ain't weakness, it's warfare. That's when you realize your story ain't for entertainment, it's for assignment. And not every chapter needs to be read out loud. Let the wrong ones wonder. Let the fake ones whisper. Let the curious ones guess. Meanwhile, you walk, you grow, you build. You protect your peace like it's gold. You honor your scars like royalty, and when it's time, when God says it's time, you share your story not to be seen, but to set somebody else free, because that's what this is about: growth, wisdom, peace, purpose, and the discernment to know when to speak and when to just keep walking, because you're not where you used to be. You don't cry like you used to. You don't beg like you used to. You don't break like you used to. And you sure don't share like you used to. That's the mark of a person who's truly healed. You've stopped telling the world your every move, because now your life is the message. Your peace is the evidence. And your silence, that's the sound of strength. So go ahead and live. Live loud even if you move quiet. Shine bright even if you speak soft. Let the world wonder how you made it and just smile. Because the truth is, they'll never know the full story. But you do, and God does, and that's more than enough. Protect your story, honor your journey, walk with purpose, and never, ever forget some parts of your break through are just between you and God.